Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining to the webinar from Lifesight. I'm sure you all started off your quarter four on a great high and looking for all those sales coming in, right? You must be sitting down either with your CEO or CFO, getting all your budgets approved and making sure that you're putting your timeline for all the creative and all the new customers that you can gain. Uh, we have been, looking at this space for quite some time. We've been helping a lot of enterprise brands, across the table for their footfall measurement, and we're also now helping them in holistic measurement, as a service for people. So we've been doing this for enterprise retailer brands, B2B brands from the last 5, 6 years. So we come with a ton of experience of enabling marketers to get more footfall and to also help them measure it better. So today here we are trying to help you maximize your paid marketing conversion, right, for Black Friday Cyber Monday 2023. Today I have with me Tom and Deepak. So Tom, feel free to give a small intro to the folks.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Ashish. Thanks for organising everything. I'm Tom. I head up global platform partnerships here at Lifesight. Greetings from Sydney today.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish. So I've been the product team for the last 2 years here at Lifesight, and we've actually built up the attribution platform from scratch. So
Awesome.
Quite excited to share that with you guys today.
Awesome. Today's agenda is going to be diving into what can we learn from last year's Black Friday Cyber Monday season. Where is the entire customer behavior changing? What are some of the things that we have learned? Also working with our customers, what are they saying? What are our strategies for them for this quarter? And also, what is the status quo on what are paid marketers really worrying about in the future? And how can we, really solve for those problems? Because we're living in the privacy first era. There's a lot of changes happening on the cookie world, ID measurements, and also in the future where people need to rely on first-party data graph in order to really help them, attract better customers. So we're going to deep dive into all of these benefits, use cases, and problems as we go. So I'd love to start with Tom bringing in a lot of his insights because he's been working with huge clients across the globe from the past few years. So Tom, take it away.
Thanks, Ashish. Starting, I guess, just setting the scene that we're ahead of our annual big seasonal revenue opportunity around Black Friday and Cyber Monday specifically. But obviously, we're moving rapidly into holiday season, across Thanksgiving and the holidays thereafter, Christmas, etc. Last year, you can see the numbers on screen there. Black Friday sales totaled over $9 billion in the US and 11.3 billion on Cyber Monday. Now, obviously, the economic climate is potentially cooling somewhat, but obviously there's still a huge opportunity this time of year around this seasonal online sales events. And excitingly, this research here from the National Retail Federation shows the split between online and offline. And obviously, what's great about the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales event is that it is driving consumers to your online stores. So there's a huge opportunity there to capitalize. One of the biggest topics with our customers is in this day and age, marketers have so many tools, so many different channels, owned media, paid media channels to communicate with customers, both new prospects and existing, and that with it brings more challenges. Understanding consumers' identity across all of these different touch points. How does that work out? And with so much choice, where do I spend my marketing dollars and my effort and my time? So we're spoiled for choice as marketers now, and this is a double-edged sword in some ways. So I thought I'd provide some nice, punchy, scene-setting insights that we think here at Lifesight will shape Black Friday, Cyber Monday paid marketing, and some really interesting insights that I think we may already be aware of, but I think it's worth still calling out that during these sales events, paid media costs skyrocket. CPCs for Facebook ads are up by 140% this time of year. Additionally, this is compounded by now when media is more costly. If we know that we're wasting a percentage of media with every buy, then we also obviously know that cost of that wastage is also increasing. So probably no surprise there. We know that a certain amount we might not be optimizing as well as we could. So there is an element of wastage that we need to be mindful of. Social commerce is one of the most significant touch points for most of our ecom clients now, and customers this year will buy more through social commerce shops this year. This is a simple fact. So understanding and being able to measure across those social platforms in an unbiased manner and an accurate manner is increasingly important. And seasonal, an interesting insight which also influences the messaging and creative at this time of year is that during these sales events, 93% of shoppers are buying gifts. And I think there's an element there of marketing and messaging that needs to factor for this. That this is prime gift buying season. I really like the research on the right hand side here by Tapcart, which also just talks to the sentiment, the consumer sentiment towards Black Friday, Cyber Monday events. And it's using excitement levels as really a proxy there for people's sentiment towards these events. And if I look at myself, there are 3 or 4 categories that I am waiting to look to buy across this during Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year. So huge sentiment levels, skewing slightly higher younger demographics. So your Gen Zs, your millennials are somewhat more excited about these events, but a huge opportunity. And if we're not already thinking to cash in on these events, then I'm sure we all are. Cool. And so just to summarize from me, again, leveraging a lot of the conversations that we're having with customers all over the world during this time of year, more so than any time, but it's especially relevant during these sales events, is the importance of understanding in an unbiased, accurate way what each channel's contribution is towards conversions. And obviously we've got more on how you could achieve that later. Tip 2, really being able to research and understand the customer conversion journey is really important. Being able to understand also in a correct weighting where your different touch points are on that conversion journey. Tip 3, having the ability to be able to choose and select your preferred attribution model, depending on your own strategy and depending on your own potentially unique niche in market. So having that flexibility to be able to understand different attribution models is hugely important. Tip 4, if possible, if you have the tools, it's strongly recommended to enable and set up unified tracking to be able to understand and measure consumers across multiple channels in real time. And now how can this be achieved? The real key to this, and the next tip, is look at server-side tracking and look at first-party identity graph technology, because these are really the the elements that are underpinning accurate attribution models and the ability to attribute accurately. And lastly, tip 6, and this is related to attribution, but it's really important, and it's still leveraging and talking to being able to understand customers and being able to match customer identities, is really looking at ways to be able to increase your match rates with your ad platforms that you're using. So how can you, if you're able to match larger percentages, larger numbers of your customer data, both authenticated but also unauthenticated, to be able to activate and target those, prospect, retarget in the platforms, that's a huge opportunity and something we recommend you do, leveraging the right types of tech. Ashish, I'll pass back to you.
Thank you so much, Tom. So, folks, we've been living in a world where it's no more funnel oriented. All right, let's all come to consensus that you attract one customer, let's say on TikTok, they might like your ad, they might interact with it, or they might not. They might click, they might find out about your brand somewhere else, and then they'll come up to your website. So there's a lot of touch points from discovery standpoint, consideration standpoint, building trust standpoint, and also in the end purchase, right? So we're living in a world where no more funnel oriented, but definitely connected, right? Everything is connected from one to another in its own beautiful ways. But in the end, what really helps the customer make the purchase is something that every marketer needs to know, so that you know that you're optimizing for better customer experience at each touch point. So this is something that you need to really understand moving on to BFM, especially because you will be getting tens and lakhs of millions of customers, right, at whatever stage you are. And you need to be really aware, right, in terms of what is really contributing to what KPI. That can be brand awareness, that can be revenue, that can be people engaging with your business, that can be post-purchase, that can be cross-selling, upselling. People are really referring other people. So it's really important, and this can go on mostly in the online world, but also in the offline world as well. We will definitely tell a lot about how you can tackle this in the online world in this webinar. But as Lifesight, we do help you in the realm of connected commerce, right? So, and how do you measure that? So feel free to go to the website and to check it out. So moving on, right? Two important aspects of the table, which our customers and also marketers are right now facing, is one, let's understand that when you're running, an ad on Facebook or on TikTok, they want you to buy more from you, right? So they might end up showing a lot of inaccurate numbers to lure you in, right? To make sure that your ROAS number are increasing, right? Your CACs are lower or your CPCs are higher. But that can never be the truth, because when it comes to the end P&L and when it comes to the end thing that, hey, okay, we spent on this, Facebook is really giving us this much revenue, but we didn't see that come onto the cash table, right? So that's something of a concern that we're all facing right now. And I think it's important to address those issues once and for all moving on. And we'll be telling you how to do that. Two, from the last few years, we've seen Google has been telling that the cookies is going to be deprecated soon. So Q1, that's going to be it. It's important for you to start planning that right away, so that you don't need to come surprise next Q1 and not be prepared, because the rest of the world is already preparing. So you need to right away get onto that shit, right? Two, a lot of browsers are coming on and removing your cookies and caches. That's because of their own policies that they want to do. And mobile tracking is also becoming much more harder, because consumer privacy is becoming much more important for people. People are able to control what they need to be shown. So you need to navigate all these challenges as a marketer, and that's where we come in as well, right? So most of the attribution challenges today has been around how do you go about solving for data privacy, and how do you get the granularity. What do we mean by that, right? You're running your campaigns, you're running your ads, you're across different channels, but you need to understand, especially during BFCM, on which creatives are really helping you gain money, which creators are really helping you, those eyeballs from brand awareness perspective, which creatives and campaigns are really giving you those average order values, right, that you're targeting, and eventually which campaigns are helping people come back and buy from you, right? So and during this time, you really can't be slow in all of this, because you're going to be preparing yourself for a lot of A/B testing, right, and also incrementality testing. So it's important for you to get up to speed, and that's something that we as Lifesight are definitely solving, and we'll tell you also what are the steps that you need to take to do that. Three. Uh, uh, One of the cost aspect of it, but I feel the complexity is more important to be talked about, because the paid marketer, which you're, in your company, or let's say in your team, uh, they'll be running ads across like easily 6 different channels if you are a huge brand, right? Because every channel would have gained some form of KPI for their campaigns. And it's important, again, that all of that is tracked in one dashboard, so that your team is more spending on how do we optimize this campaign? How do we change the budgets on this campaign? How do we increase the ROI on this campaign, rather than figuring out, why is this data an issue? Why is this whole problem that we sat today in our weekly meeting, and the numbers that we wanted, the ROAS that we wanted, was really not what we expected out of it. And that might actually, end up making you take some bad calls, while that's not the case, right? That's where the whole problem of reliability comes into play, that you need to also trust all the data coming in from other sources. You need to also enable, right, all these other platforms to get you the right customers for your business, because let's be aware that CPCs are going to be increasing moving forward. You need to be really aware and intelligent enough to be able to solve this with providing reliable data back to these ad platforms. So with that, I would love to give Deepak the stage, where he's going to speak more about different kind of attribution models and what's going to be right for you, all of that. So Deepak, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Ashish. So, of course, I'll give you a quick overview of these models before moving on, right? So, firstly, we start with the first touch model, right? So here, all credit is assigned to the first touch point in the customer journey. Now, this is obviously super useful when you want to track the channel that initially introduced the customer to your brand, right? Moving on, we have the beloved last touch model. It's still used quite a bit. The idea here is it assigns credit to the channel that directly influenced the customer's decision to convert, right? So exactly the last interaction that they had with a channel before converting. Moving on, we have the data-driven attribution, which is actually pretty cool. The idea here is we use machine learning to assign credit to each channel based on its impact on conversions, right? It does provide a more probabilistic approach to assigning attribution credit, but it is super useful when you have a lot of data about your customer journeys. Moving on to the linear model, the idea here is we have a model that's super useful when we want to give equal credit to all channels that a customer interacted with before converting. So simple example here is, if someone sees an ad on social media, then visits your website, doesn't make a purchase, then reads an email from you a while later and then converts, the linear attribution model would credit each of these two channels with 50% of the conversion, right? Then we have time decay. The idea here is, the model is quite useful when you want to give more credit to the channel that a customer interacted with closer to the time of conversion. So here, if someone sees your ad on social media a week ago, visits your website yesterday after seeing an email ad and converts today, the time decay attribution model would give much more credit to the email ad than to the social media ad, right? So you could say it's almost weighted by time. We then have the position-based model. The idea here is it's actually quite similar to the linear attribution model, but it gives more weight to the first and last interactions in the conversion path. So an example here again is if someone clicks on your ad on social media, then visits your website using an SMS link, and then clicks on an email from you, and finally converts, the position-based attribution would credit the first and last interactions with 40% and the middle interaction with the remaining 20%. Now, having said this, there's no one kind of attribution model that fits every business need, right? The fundamentals of attribution involve having a pixel on your website, right? So let me just give you a quick idea of how we do it here as well. So this pixel, it tracks exactly where, how, and why a user visits your store or website using the UTM source, UTM medium, and UTM campaign fields that are actually present in the URL. Now, once this is known, the user journey can be stitched all the way from the initial landing up to a purchase, right? So this journey is what we call the customer journey, and we'll actually show you that in the upcoming slides. But the idea here is in this journey, we have all these touch points, and we're able to assign attribution credit based on the perspective you like to look at it through, right? Thus, all these different models that we spoke about. Now, multi-touch attribution it's actually a very useful model, right? The idea here is it's super useful when you want to give credit to multiple channels that a customer interacts with before converting, right? For example, if someone sees your ad on social media, visits the website, doesn't purchase, I'm actually giving you the same example again. We would give credit to all the different touch points that a customer interacts with before making a purchase based on the attribution window that you select. Of course, the concept of an attribution window is super important here. And like I mentioned before, there's no one perfect attribution model, but models like the multi-touch attribution, they actually give credit to multiple sources, and it gives you, I guess, a slightly more holistic picture of all the interactions that someone's actually interacting with before making a purchase, right? It's actually a great way to get around some of the disadvantages of using a single credit system like first touch or last touch. Now, what are some of the benefits that we get from multi-touch attribution? So I guess I can boil this down into a few points. The first one is how much each channel actually contributed towards converting a customer, right? You get to see the stages of a customer journey. And of course, MTA automatically takes into account longer and shorter journeys, and it assigns fractional credit where necessary. And this finally helps you understand journeys that customers take on your brand on the way to a conversion. So, like I mentioned before, it's just a more holistic model. Now, naturally, it's quite important to minimize the lag between an event happening and its measurement, right? The benefits to this should be obvious. One, it actually allows you to identify, optimize the most successful marketing campaigns in near real time, right? Of course, during a time when you're running multiple campaigns, you have immense ad spend. It's super important to be able to identify and optimize this as soon as possible, right? The idea being it leads to improved ROI, right? You also have another huge benefit, which is that you're also able to respond to customer actions on your campaigns to improve the overall customer experience, right? So, this just translates to improved personalization for the people who are actually viewing your campaigns. So, summarizing the idea of real-time data, the idea is to make campaign optimization a quicker process, and to make sure that there's no need to wait for reports to be generated through a lengthy analysis process and everything that you might find on platforms like GA4, for example, right? Now, here's a snapshot of what the Lifesight attribution dashboard would actually look like, right? The idea here is you first select a bunch of different filters to then view your data through these filters, right? So naturally, the first thing that we select here is date range. This is the time in which you like to look at all your conversions. Of course, you select an attribution window, which is super important. We typically find that some brands are more aggressive and they choose shorter attribution windows because they like to consider only the channels that are having an immediate effect on conversions, right? We choose a small attribution window. Of course, we provide the option for a lifetime window as well if you like to consider the impact of all the different channels that the user interacts with before actually making a purchase, right? So you select the attribution window, and finally you select the attribution model. This is the lens through which you like to actually take a look at the data itself, right? And like I mentioned before, MTA is I guess, slightly more holistic view of actually taking a look at the data. And once you do this, we're actually able to split the conversion credit between all these different channels that you interact with, and we show you the contribution of each platform on a dashboard as well, right? Uh, I think we'll have a demo session scheduled some other time to actually show you how we structure the reports on our attribution dashboard. Another useful feature that we provide is actually visually viewing your customer journeys, right? You actually know what someone's doing on your store before converting, right? So if someone lands in on your store through a different series of journeys of Facebook and Google Ads, we actually show you that visually. We also tell you what each touch point is finally bringing in as conversion. And we also show you the average time between different customer stages, right? The idea being, um, these kind of customer journeys, they're no longer very straightforward. They're no longer super linear. You can find that they're branching out, and you can have you can actually have dozens of different touch points before a user converts. So viewing it visually through a graph like this or a chart like this, it's super useful to understand where your early, mid, and late stage interactions happen before finally converting. So that's the point of a view like this. Now, all this brings us to Lifesight Measure, right? So simply put, Lifesight Measure is a privacy first marketing measurement suite that lets you accurately measure the impact of your media spend and validate your ad strategy. The why part of things is quite simple. As Ashish already covered, if I'm a marketer, I face multiple challenges now, right? One is optimizing my ad spend. The other one is that Apple's taking away a lot of the data that my ad platform could actually be using to track my campaigns, right? I know that my in-house reporting is inaccurate and it doesn't line up with my store numbers. I also know that IDs and cookie signals are weakening, and I also cannot map out my customer journey easily, right? So keeping these main challenges in mind, we actually try to account for all these in the platform, right? To actually help you solve these challenges. And the way we actually do this, it's a three-pronged approach. So the first is multi-touch attribution for your day-to-day decision making. I mean, of course, all this is up to industry standards. You get to monitor the ROAS and CAC values for your campaigns, and you get to drill down all the way up to the ad level, right? This lets you develop hypotheses with which to test experiments, right? So that brings us to our incrementality testing piece, right? And this lets you validate experiments that you can run on your ad channels using it. And finally, to cover the gaps of multi-touch attribution, we have MMM, right? That's marketing mix modeling. The idea here is we can use this to make more advanced KPI predictions and budget allocations, right? So at the strategy level, this is where a solution like MMM really helps us. Now, both MTA and incrementality testing pieces can be used to calibrate the MM models that we develop on the platform.
Yeah, awesome. So thanks so much, Deepak, for deep diving on the attribution end of the table. What one thing I think is really important is that, again, going back to the complexity of doing your attribution and then increasing your match rate and getting the right customers knocking on your doors is becoming so much more important moving forward. And you want to be, optimizing for better processes. You want to be optimizing for better data. You want to be optimizing for real-time decision making, and you want to be optimizing for good target customers coming onto your store. So with all of this in mind, right, Lifesight's universal attribution, right, provides you all of these capabilities within the platform. And this is definitely also fueled by our first-party ID graph, right? Now, why is this important, right? The cookie which somebody else has dropped might be taken away from your browser, or it might give you the wrong signals possible or the wrong data moving forward. But in Lifesight, we really help you, right, by providing our own pixel on your website, and that will be able to track all the first party, stuff happening on your website. That can be, your traffic coming in, that can be a repeat customer, that can be even recognizing those anonymous customers visiting your website. And it's important for you to track all of that by investing in a first-party ID graph so that eventually you are going to be owning all of that measurement and attribution and data capabilities within you and not relying on any other service providers or even platforms for that matter. Deepak, you want to deep dive into a little bit of this?
Yeah, I actually think you actually touched on a very important part, which is actually identifying more anonymous users than you would otherwise, right? If you didn't have a solution like this, you'd actually find that a lot of people are coming into your store, browsing around, right? And maybe they make a purchase, in which case they do get identified. But all these different other journeys up to the point of purchase, which could be completely anonymous, right? We actually convert a lot of these anonymous visitors into identified traffic for you. And what this means for you is that you're actually able to target these people a little better, right? You're actually able to help them with personalized recommendations and probably discount coupons as well, if necessary, right? But the idea here is converting anonymized traffic, like anonymous traffic into identified users is actually a strong suit of a first-party ID graph like this, meaning if they were identified even once earlier, right, even on multiple devices, the idea here is we're able to stick these users into identified users, right? And of course, it's like a win-win situation. The end user gets um, much more personalized recommendations, right? Helpful recommendations, and you, in turn, as a store owner or a marketer, are able to reach out to these folks who you actually would not have been able to if you didn't have a first-party ID graph, right? If you didn't have a solution powered by a first-party ID graph.
So with that, we want to primarily conclude this entire session into one goal, right? That in the end, you need to be a confident marketer. You need to be holistically understanding where your customers are coming from, how you're going to target them, how you're going to predict all of those revenues, how you're going to make sure that the customer journey is seamless, and how do you eventually also own all of that capability within yourself. And that's where we really help you out. So feel free to go and check out more about our Lifesight Measure module, which provides you the trident of gold standard measurement. And feel free to talk to our website, book a demo, and we'll be able to happily show you and also understand more about your current issues as well. Uh, uh, so just ending this, right, with a note that every ad dollar that you spend out there in any campaign, in any channel, in any ad set or anything needs to be confident enough. And the way you do that is by actually relying on good data, which is built out of all the complexity that you face as a marketer, all that own data strategies that you take, right, to be able to measure better and to be able to rely on a universal, unified dashboard attribution space where you know that you and your team can sit together and finalize on all those budgets, optimize it, and also predict your future revenue. So with that, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Hope you had a great time, and hope you got all the information possible to maximize your paid marketing conversion in BFCM. With that, Tom, Deepak, any last words, and we can end the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Ashish, and for organising, and thanks, Deepak. That was really interesting. Yeah, wishing everyone a successful holiday sales period.
Awesome.
Of course, and I guess the final takeaway I'd say is to reiterate my first point. There's no one perfect way of viewing your attribution data. The idea is to have multiple perspectives or multiple lenses. So that's it.